You see, you're throwing about words extravagantly. For example, you're calling them influential. They don't influence us. They don't
No.
influence
Looking
us
at the,
because we no longer follow them. Yes, there's been a lot of
Mr.
cynicism, and that is
Yes.
guilt talk. That is guilt talk
Oh,
from these corrupt members of parliament, corrupt leaders, including religious and traditional leaders. They know the truth, but because they are corrupt, and you see the corrupt people always know which kind of engine to grease. So they keep fueling that engine. No wonder corrupt people will steal money and go build churches. Today, a church was being launched by Thomas Taebwa, the same person who is under question. So you won't fail to hoodwink a few people. Radio presenters, TV presenters, so-called analysts, those armchair analysts, they will speak very good English, quote very smart laws in defense of corruption. Of course, ultimately, it fails that they have to deploy brute force to protect corruption. But all that cynicism is meant to do what young people these days call, I'm trying to look.
Mr. President, are you still with us?
Hello, can you hear me very well?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, I was saying that the people that are trying to be cynical are trying to do what the young people of these days call gaslighting. They're trying to make the people that are speaking up against corruption have a false sense of wrongness. They're trying to make them believe that they actually don't understand what they're talking about. That is the level of intellectual dishonesty that is being employed to defend corruption. Trying to
All right.
victimize the victim.
Okay, Mr. President. You know, we've read comments where people say that someone that has been caught red-handed in corruption should deserve death penalties or should be jailed for this long. Some are so extreme to the extreme, some are too lenient, too weak. Mr. President, help us understand what is NUP's policy about corruption or on corruption?
NUP's policy, like most political parties, I really don't want to talk about what we write or what we say. I want to talk about what we do. Of course, I will tell you that we have a zero tolerance policy to corruption. But that will only be words until we act on it. The NRM and all other political parties speak, very morally until it's time to act. For us, we don't only speak about it, but we act with the little power that we have. And if we are to get more power, then you will see what moral people use power for. Of course, moral actions.
Thank you, President. We want to thank every Ugandan out there that is listening to us. We're still taking on His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. We say the legitimate president of Uganda. We're talking about, Uganda's corruption scourge. Mr. President, please help us understand what is keeping us away the informal sector from the corruption peaceful protests. And what is the division? What causes the division in perspective of class? People look at corruption differently.
Thank you very much. That's a very, very important question. I hope we have some ghetto people on here as well. What is keeping away the Juakari, the informal sector, the ghetto people, the Kabayas of this world, the Edimutwes of this world? What is keeping them away? You see, we live in a society that is only uniting. And I'm very glad that's one victory of our generation, bringing together a generation, different tribes, different mentalities, different levels of education, different religious affiliations, but all of them united by the pain that they share. Clearly, we've all been sharing the same pain, but we had not connected as we are seeming to connect now. initially, when myself and other people threw in our hat and came into leadership, the first stereotype was, Bobby Wine now, muntu wabayaye boka, bageto boka, batasoma boka, and all that kind of thing. Of course, ultimately, we bonded, although there has been still a separation of mentalities, where when towards the 2021 election, you saw a lot of common people, a lot of border riders, the market vendors, Batembe, and all that coming into the politics. This scared the hell out of General Museveni. That for the first time, you saw drones, you saw abductions, you saw sodomy, you saw googling out eyes and plucking out teeth and cutting off of limbs. You saw extrajudicial killings because General Museveni was so scared. And for a very long time, the common people have been, suffering, of course, fighting in their own common way that they understand. You will note that there was a time, sometime last year, when Dr. Besigye was so angry that he said that you, the intellectuals, are the problem of Uganda, because once you are comfortable in your, 2-bedroom house and a 6-figure salary, you are all right until you're not all right. So this was noted over time that common people reached a time and thought our intellectuals are only on Twitter, are only on Facebook, are only online, and they don't come out. And again, because corruption has been so dressed out well, I don't call it corruption. Common people don't call it corruption. They call it theft, because it is theft. Somebody steals a whole road. Somebody steals a hospital, steals a school. Now they steal futures of the young people. So when the intellectuals, and please pardon me when I call all of you intellectuals, we live in a country where even when one speaks good English, is regarded an intellectual. So when you rose to the occasion, the common people needed to connect with the theme. For them, they see corruption as a problem. But again, they have bigger problems. They don't even have the right to be human beings. They don't have a right to exist. They are fighting to exist. So according to them, corruption, especially the way they understand it, Okulienguzi, do not seem a very easily understandable problem. And that is why myself and many other people that explain have done and continue to do a great job to break it down for the people. I'm very happy about artists like King Saha, like Azawi, and many others. They've made it easy for the common people to understand. And with time, I see the two sides bonding and acting together.
Thank you, Mr. President. I love the fact that you help us understand this deeply. Honorable, tusobola tutya okumenyawo that bridge that is between, abageto feno wansi gye tufa kwoteeka ate ne bali bamambala masuuti ne tuba nga fena we are on the same page about corruption.
Obedde omanyi n'Oluganda. Ya kirungi nnyo, kizaamu amaanyi, wabula kye tulina okukola kwe kumakinga sure tukibreakinga down to make people understand. Ekintu ekyasinga okuleeta abantu mu byobufuzi, especially when people power and NUP came, kwe kuba nti twabringinga politics ku street, omuntu n'amanya ebyobufuzi bimukwatirako wa, n'amanya nti abo bonna byabufuzi balaba be basalawo bbeeyi gyagulamu sukaali, be basalawo bbeeyi gyagulamu akawunga, ate be basalawo wa mu ddwaliro waliyo omalagala oba tewali. Kati nekino ekya corruption, omuntu weetaaga omunnyonnyola nti oyo Anita Amongo essente zabbye oba sente ze bamismanaginze emiliyoni 5 okweguliramu generator, ezo zibadde zisobola okuyamba health center yewammwe Rukunjiri oba ekanoni egomba n'ebeera ng'erwaninga zibadde zisobola okusasula abasawo. Ekyo bwe abantu bakina ki understandinga tekijja kulwanyisa corruption yokka, wabula kijja bayamba abantu okugetinga involved. Nzize nga nkinyonnyola abantu bonna nti gali amawanga amalala tegakulakulana kuba abantu bago abakulembeze balina empisa, no, kubanga abantu baba holding accountable. I'm trying to say that we need to make it clear to the young people of Uganda, especially from the ghettos, that other countries do not develop, or leaders in other countries don't do good simply because they are good. No, but because people hold them accountable. I would not say that President Ruto is a very good man, but he's doing good, he's respecting Kenyans because Kenyans are not taking crap from him. Now that we need to break it down for across all classes for them to understand that it affects us all if we sit back and relax, and it benefits us all if we rise to the occasion and equally demand what belongs to all of us. And finally, on that matter, it is important for all people to know that they are all taxpayers. You don't have to be a rich person to think that you're a taxpayer. Even the soda that you hold, the salt that you buy, everything you pay tax. So everybody should look at it, at themselves as a full taxpayer. So that is going to take people like you, Dr. Morgan, people like you, Good Girl, people like you, Aiden, and all of you friends that are here to try break it down more and more and more for the people. Like I was saying, for me, I see only positivity. When I see people like Judith Ann, when I see people like Saint Nelly, when I see people like religious leaders who are outspoken, people like Asawi, voices that I listened to, breaking this down to the common people, their fans who are in millions will follow suit, and they will sometimes even understand it better and pay even more interest. And that way, we'll be able to go from one step to another.
Thank you, Honorable Chagwani. Mr. President, you've talked about Kenya, you've talked about President Ruto letting the Gen Zs protest. But as we all know, it's a public secret where there is a swarm of people, demonstrating or protesting to capture the attention of the government or the president in power. There will be some self-seekers. We shall not say generally that Honorable Commission EMO. Mr. Chagulani, if you were in power now, would you let the Gen Zs raise and demonstrate against corruption? And looking at the demands they have, for example, they are calling for the resignation of the Speaker of Parliament, which is the demand number one. They are calling for the resignation of the 4 backbench commissioners. They are calling for the reducing of the number of parliament members. They are calling for any member of parliament that has been caught involved in any corruption scandal should resign and be investigated. Number 5, they call for a live audit for all the members of parliament and publicizing it. Number 6, they call for the cutting of salaries and allowances of all parliamentary members to 3 million, but also call for allowing Ugandans to continuously, demonstrate or exercise their democratic right of peacefully assembly. Are these relevant?
Of course they are relevant. Of course they are relevant. I'll answer the first question. Would I let the Gen Zs protest? I want you people to know that your right is not given to you by the state. You have it. It's given by God, but you also have it enshrined in the Constitution. And this generation must be the last generation to even think that the right to protest for a right is granted by state. Nobody is going to call you to protest against them. You just have that right, and you should never let anybody make you believe otherwise. So it would not be upon me as president or anybody as president to allow people to protest or not. It is their right, about whether the calls of the young people are justifiable and achievable. Absolutely, there's nothing that determined people cannot achieve. Absolutely nothing. And history has shown it. The reason why you see General Museveni deploying the military on the street is to stop you from starting, because when you start, he knows he will not be able to stop you. I mean, he will not be able to stop you from taking it to any level that you would want to take it. So you just have to go. You don't have to demand. I mean, you don't have to request. You don't have to beg for the right to protest for your rights. Let Kenya give you as an example. It is all achievable. And I think the first thing should be, of course, I hear them demanding the resignation of the speaker. That should have happened long time. The four backbench commissioners should have resigned long time ago. We saw some pseudo-intellectuals trying to castigate us for calling for the resignation of our comrade when he was found in that corruption scandal. I'm very glad that the whole nation can see it. But they should also call for the resignation of the so-called fountain of honor, because he is the chief priest of corruption. This is a person that is not only rewarding corruption, but facilitating corruption and defending corruption. So if you break the defense of corruption, then corruption will crumble like a pack of cards.
Absolutely right. We have NUP, and this has been the lead opposition party. I want us to understand in the context of how has NUP, being that it is the lead opposition party, other people love calling it being the lead option or the only option. How has it taken charge of fighting corruption and holding the government accountable in other areas, just apart from using the parliamentary front?
Like we said in the beginning, that we went to parliament not to be the opposition, because we actually won the election. But we were relegated to the opposition under the circumstances that, because of time, I won't go into. We use the parliamentary platform, but because it is very tightly controlled, you will see that when Anita Among is presiding over the House, she will use all manner of obscenities, all manner of humiliation to anybody that dares to raise a voice against corruption. It's only when Taebwa, and not that he's a saint himself, that he was sharing the House, that a few people like Alion were able to speak against corruption. Now, Parliament is only an institution. It's only one institution, which is also, under the grip of General Museveni. We believe in activism, and we have always been calling for protests against all, impunity, all abuses, not only corruption, but also human rights violations. Of course, you have always seen the response of the timid regime: brutality, abductions, extrajudicial killings, name it. But we continue. Like I'm saying, it is, I continuously say it because I believe that this has come as a blessing to see